At the most critical threshold of your life, they handed you not an ordinary task, but the key to destiny. They called you to the stage at the moment when everyone was silent and your courage was frozen. Write 333 in the comments now, because they know that you are the only one who can choose the team that will shake the truth, reveal the unseen, and radically change the system. Your intuition, that divine wisdom that lies deep in your heart, allows you to clearly see the thin line that separates people and truth. Just like when a bolt of lightning splits the night sky and everyone stands frozen in awe, something inside this world shifted in a way nobody could ignore. Sometimes all it takes is a single clap of thunder, a spiritual awakening that cracks open the clouds of old assumptions and lets the sunlight pour through. That's how sudden and undeniable the moment was. A flash of revelation that scattered every shadow, left mouths open, and made the wise scratch their heads, wondering where they missed the signs. There are moments, rare and holy, when life itself presses pause. Like the hush that falls over a congregation, right before the miracle, everything goes silent. The ones who once felt so sure, so certain about how things would play out, now find themselves looking for answers, flipping back through the pages of memory, searching for the place where they lost the plot. Their minds are busy, restless, circling around and around, unable to let go of what just happened. In this kind of moment, it's as if God himself decided to rewrite the rules. Those who always thought they could predict the outcome, those who put your destiny in a neat little box, are now wrestling with the mystery. There's a power in this, a holy, unstoppable force that shakes the dust off of old limitations and sets the stage for something nobody expected. It's like when a seed, buried for years under hard soil, finally breaks through and grows into a mighty tree right in the center of the town square. People gather, whispering, "How did this happen? Where did this come from?" But the miracle speaks for itself. And friend, let me tell you, when the divine steps in, it isn't subtle. The air gets heavy with possibility. Hearts skip a beat. Those who tried to write you off are now writing your name in their prayers, hoping for a piece of the blessing you carry. You see, the chosen ones walk with an unseen authority. The world may have overlooked you, underestimated you, counted you out, but God never took his eyes off you. That power, the power to rewrite the whole story with a single gesture, is what has just been released. When the wind of spirit moves, you don't have to force your way into the spotlight. Doors that were locked for decades swing open without effort. The very people who doubted you are now the ones trying to get close, hoping you'll explain how you did it. They're replaying every conversation, every meeting, every missed clue, desperate for a reason, desperate for a foothold. But this kind of breakthrough doesn't come from logic or calculation. It comes from a place beyond the five senses. It comes from the hand of God, moving in favor of the ones he's called. Let's be clear. When the Lord lifts you up, the world can't put you down. You might have spent years being the underdog, the overlooked, the afterthought, but in the blink of an eye, everything can change. People will look at you and say, "Weren't you the one everyone ignored? The one they laughed at?" And all you'll have to do is smile, because you know that grace found you in the shadows and crowned you in the light. It's like the story of Joseph, thrown in a pit by his own brothers, left for dead, only to rise up and become the one who saved a nation. What was meant for harm, God turned for good. That's what's happening now. The very moment that was designed to end your story has become the turning point. that launched your destiny. They can't explain it. They can't control it. All they can do is stand in awe as the evidence of your calling becomes impossible to deny. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. The confusion they feel isn't just about you. It's about the realization that the world doesn't move according to their plans. There are higher laws at work, ancient and eternal, that watch over the steps of the righteous. When you walk in alignment with your purpose, nothing on earth can block what heaven has ordained. They'll search for answers in every textbook, every boardroom, every secret meeting, but the explanation will always slip through their fingers. Because what happened wasn't just a change in circumstances, it was a shift in the spirit realm, the kind of shift that changes generations. People may try to retrace their steps, looking for the place where things started to go off script. They'll review every detail, hoping to find a crack in the wall, a missed sign, a clue they overlooked. But the truth is, it wasn't about them missing something. It was about you stepping into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. When destiny arrives, it doesn't knock softly. It breaks the door off its hinges and says, "I'm here now. Everything is different." And while the world stands speechless, you begin to feel the weight of a new responsibility. This isn't just about vindication or payback. This is about walking in purpose, about carrying the torch for others who are still waiting for their own breakthrough. The ripple effect of your transformation will be felt far and wide. There will be some who are inspired, some who are jealous, and some who will try to imitate your path. But nobody can duplicate the favor that rests on your life. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. You become, in that moment, a living testimony. Like a lighthouse on a rocky coast, your story shines for all to see. A beacon that reminds the weary and forgotten that miracles are still possible. The wind that blew open your doors is the same wind that can lift others, if only they believe. The people who once whispered about your failures will now talk about your rise. They will tell stories for years to come about the moment the world changed in a single stroke. Because you had the courage to be who God called you to be. Now the echoes of your breakthrough continue to resound. Each day, as they revisit that moment, their understanding deepens, their assumptions unravel. They come to realize that what they witnessed was not just an event, but a sign. A sign that the world is bigger than they ever dreamed, that there are forces at work far greater than their own agendas, and that nothing is impossible for those who walk in faith. So let the questions come. Let the doubters gather. For every voice of confusion, there is a song of victory rising from your spirit. The magnitude of what happened cannot be contained or explained by natural means because it was a move orchestrated by heaven itself. And now that the doors have opened and the ground has shifted, you stand on holy ground, ready to embrace the next chapter of your calling, one step at a time, with confidence, grace, and the quiet knowing that your best days are yet to come. It was like a river that everyone thought would always follow the same path, winding predictably through the valley year after year. Folks built their lives on the certainty of its direction. They set out chairs on the banks and told stories about how nothing ever changed, how the waters would always move just as their fathers and grandfathers had seen. But then, without warning, that river broke free of its boundaries. It carved a brand new way through rock and soil, flooding fields that had never tasted such power, leaving the old maps useless. That's what happens when the hand of the divine steps in. What once seemed fixed and unchangeable is suddenly transformed before everyone's eyes. This was no ordinary contest. It was the kind of moment that finds its way into family legends and gets whispered about in late-night talks on front porches. Just when everyone thought they had you pegged, thought the game was over, and every piece was in its right place, something holy and unpredictable shook the ground beneath their feet. It wasn't skill alone, and it wasn't luck. It was the spirit moving, rearranging every plan that men had made. People had gotten so comfortable in their routines. They'd convinced themselves that if they just followed the script, kept moving their pieces according to the old instructions, nothing could surprise them. They watched you like hawks, certain they'd see any move coming a mile away. They mistook control for security, routine for wisdom. But behind that curtain, out of sight, there was a greater plan unfolding, one authored by the Almighty, hidden from the world, but known by the chosen. There's a time when the music changes, and the old dancers can't keep up. When the Lord writes a new melody, those who only know the steps of yesterday are left behind, tripping over their own certainty. The comfortable order, the polished routines, the sense that everything is under control, all of it gets upended in an instant. Suddenly, the masks drop, the old armor fails, and every hidden weakness is revealed in the light. You see, when you're marked for a divine purpose, it doesn't matter how many times people rehearse their lines or memorize the script they think you're living by. God has a way of pulling the rug out from under the most well-rehearsed routines. What looked like stability was really just a thin layer over deep, unseen cracks. The hand of heaven presses down, and those cracks split wide open. For years the show went on, everyone playing their part, but the real story was being written backstage by one who sees the end from the beginning. For those sitting on the sidelines, this looked like chaos, but for the chosen, it felt like prophecy being fulfilled. They wondered, how could everything turn upside down in a single moment? How could the one who was counted out suddenly rise and lead the parade? The answer is simple. Favor isn't given by people, it's poured out by God. The world's approval can change with the weather, but when you're chosen, heaven's endorsement is unshakable. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. In that sacred moment, every false sense of security was swept away. The careful plans of those who tried to orchestrate your path were left in tatters. What they thought was a tightly wound clockwork was revealed as a house of cards. It was as if an unseen wind blew through the room, scattering every expectation, forcing everyone to look up and admit they never really understood the times or the power at work. There's a beauty in being underestimated, in letting them believe you're predictable, while all along, God is preparing you for something bigger than any of their designs. And let's be honest, sometimes the greatest miracles come wrapped in the chaos of the unexpected. The world tries to tame and explain, but when the Spirit moves, explanations fall short. The chosen know what it's like to feel out of step with the crowd, to walk a path no one else can see. They know what it's like to stand in the quiet, holding on to a promise while everyone else clings to routine. It's humbling too, because it's not about being clever or crafty. It's about being open to the divine rerouting. It's about trusting that even if all the plans unravel, you're not lost, you're being guided. The unexpected turn isn't a setback, it's the beginning of the real story. And when the curtain is pulled back, all the world's calculations can't deny what God has made happen. Now the storytellers will talk about this moment for years to come. They'll remember the night when predictability died and a new current began to flow. They'll shake their heads and say, "We never saw it coming. We never guessed it would be them." But you'll know. Deep down, you'll remember the prayers whispered in the dark, the faith held close when evidence was thin, the feeling that something holy was happening just beneath the surface. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. And as the dust settles and the new path becomes clear, the chosen stand firm, not because they had every answer, but because they dared to trust when others only calculated. The world will ask for your secret. They'll want to know the formula, the method, the pattern, but the real answer is simple. You surrendered the illusion of control and walked in the flow of a higher purpose. This is just the beginning of your story, not the end. The rules that once boxed you in have been swept away. The river has changed its course, and the old maps no longer matter. The ones who held the power before now look to you, not for permission, but for direction. And every step you take becomes a new chapter in a living testimony, a testimony that shouts, "Nothing is impossible for those who trust in the higher calling placed on their life." It's like the story of a humble gardener in the early spring. While everyone else is dazzled by flashy flowers and showy blooms, he's out there quietly turning the soil, gathering every fallen leaf, every overlooked stone, every scrap others thought was worthless. People shake their heads, wondering what he's doing with such rubbish, but he knows the secret. What's discarded in pride becomes gold in the hands of the wise. And in the same way, all those little insults, every sidelong glance, every word meant to put you in your place, became seeds for a harvest nobody else could see coming. There's a powerful truth in this. Sometimes the very things meant to break you are the building blocks God uses to elevate you. While others invest their energy in appearances, polishing their reputation, rehearsing their roles, showing off for the crowd, the chosen one is paying attention beneath the surface. It's the quiet ones, the underestimated, who are storing up every lesson, every hurt, every moment of rejection, and tucking them away for a higher purpose. You see, pride is a trap that looks like a throne. Those who sit high and mighty, casting judgment from above, never notice the foundation beneath their feet starting to crumble. They think they're building an empire of success, but in truth, Every brick is mortared with disregard for those beneath them. Meanwhile, the overlooked, the humble, the ones who keep their heads down and their hearts open, are quietly collecting every dropped opportunity, every bit of wisdom, every experience that the proud toss aside. In the unseen places, when the crowd isn't looking, when the spotlight is elsewhere, the true transformation is happening. Just as a caterpillar does its greatest work inside a cocoon, away from public view, your growth has been taking shape in silence. The ones who thought they knew it all, who believed the game was theirs to win, were blinded by their own confidence. But God sees what man misses, and He works with the humble raw materials of the Spirit to craft a testimony that no one can deny. It's important to realize that nothing is wasted in the hands of the Almighty. The tiniest slight, the smallest moment of being ignored or overlooked is like a raindrop that feeds the roots of your destiny. The world may have thrown dirt on you, but God used that very dirt to plant you deeper, to make sure your roots went down where nobody else could see. Every season of struggle, every unnoticed effort was watering the soil for a breakthrough that only heaven could design. What was once considered a nuisance, a distraction, or a waste, those became your secret advantage. The Lord specializes in taking what others reject and turning it into a foundation for miracles. That's why you don't have to resent the hard times or the people who underestimated you. Every laugh at your expense, every door that slammed shut, every time you were written off, God was keeping score. Not for payback, but for a comeback that would bring glory not just to your name, but to His promise over your life. So, while some were busy counting victories on the surface, the real champion was rising up in the shadows. The strategy wasn't about showmanship or grand gestures, it was about patience, endurance, and a quiet faith that never let go of the vision. Those who put their trust in quick wins, who sought the applause of the crowd, now find themselves scrambling to keep up with the shift they never saw coming. When the tables turned, and oh how quickly they can turn, the proud were left wondering how the tides change so fast. The answer is simple. The Lord exalts the humble and brings low the proud. What they thought was insignificant turned out to be the cornerstone of your elevation. The foundation was being laid, not in the public eye, but in the private moments, in the prayers nobody heard, in the sacrifices nobody saw. As you step forward, carrying the wisdom and strength forged in obscurity, remember that your story is a living testimony for others who are still gathering their scraps, still being underestimated, still waiting for their season. You are the evidence that nothing given to God is ever wasted, that every slight, every hurt, every overlooked moment is actually preparation for something greater. And now, as the dust settles and the proud are forced to take notice, the truth is plain. The game was never about who could shine the brightest in the beginning, but who could endure, who could trust, who could hold on until God's timing brought everything into the light. What was hidden has become the foundation for victory. What was despised is now the trophy of your faith. You, chosen one, have become the gardener of your own destiny. Every bit of pain, every disappointment, every season of waiting has blossomed into a harvest that the world cannot ignore. The ones who once looked down their noses are now craning their necks, desperate to understand how the tables turned. But you know, it wasn't by chance, and it wasn't by accident. It was by grace, by faith, and by the quiet work of the Spirit deep beneath the surface, where true greatness is always born. Every interaction, no matter how seemingly harmless, became a lesson in vulnerability. As the dialogue unfolded, what was thought to be gentle instruction or mild correction revealed more about the instructor than the pupil. While the outward show was one of dominance, a silent observer was learning the true measure of the actors, understanding the dance well enough to compose a new tune altogether. A patient approach proved more potent than any immediate retort or hastily drawn conclusion. Beneath the placid exterior, plans matured and intentions ripened, becoming all the more potent for the time they were allowed to develop. Patience took on a new shape, not passivity, but active, intentional observation, the gathering of insight for a moment when it would prove most powerful. The ability to wait became a sharpened tool, a weapon drawn in silence, stored away like hidden treasure. Every slight and underestimation accumulated potential. What seemed like forbearance was actually a gathering storm, quiet only because the time for action had not yet arrived. Stillness became a reservoir, collecting the energy that would eventually break through and sweep away everything thought to be immovable. While those in power remained distracted by the surface noise, there was a deeper awareness at work, a mapping of unspoken connections, unacknowledged motives, and secret fears. Every event, every shift in energy was part of a pattern invisible to the untrained eye. The right moment was not merely found, but summoned into being, as if the world itself bent to the will of the one who truly understood its hidden rhythms. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles. Feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Recognition dawned not as a sudden revelation, but as the slow, steady acceptance of an enduring truth. The story was never about struggle from a position of weakness. It was about the gradual revelation of latent strength. The so-called underdog was, in fact, the author of the narrative, shaping the outcome from behind the scenes until the moment arrived for the mask to be lifted. Through careful, unseen design, the entire experience was constructed to funnel toward a predetermined outcome. Every step, every word, every misstep of others was anticipated and folded into the larger blueprint. The contest, as it was perceived, had always been guided by an invisible hand, orchestrating events from a vantage point no one else could access. The transformation was not one of sudden reversal, but the slow conversion of disadvantage into overwhelming advantage. What began as a narrative of being overlooked was, in fact, the steady building of an unstoppable force, made powerful precisely because it was underestimated. When the truth was revealed, it was not a simple victory, but a total recalibration of the entire room's understanding. Multiple avenues for exposure were prepared in advance, each one a fail-safe against the common tactics of denial, minimization, and appropriation. If attempts were made to sweep away the accomplishment, proof beyond question was at the ready, ensuring that dismissal would only highlight the ineptitude of those who tried. If the goal was to overshadow the event, a wave of undeniable evidence was waiting to render that effort futile. And if claims of foresight or support emerged, documentation stood by, to bring the truth to light, painting those claims as fabrications. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. The approach was never about simply outmaneuvering others. It was about revealing the entire hidden architecture of deceit. Every layer of pretense, every attempt at manipulation was laid bare for all to see, transforming what could have been a simple triumph into a moment of radical exposure. The point was not only to emerge victorious, but to bring the truth, raw and unfiltered, into the daylight. A pivotal invitation emerges now, built on all that has been revealed and learned. A wealth of sacred methods gathered over years of dedicated discovery is now being shared for the benefit of all who are ready to change their reality. This is more than just a collection of teachings. It's an opportunity to participate in the making of a new world, where knowledge is not hidden, but freely given, and every participant becomes a living architect of possibility.